Hello, it's Fraser from the Stand Comedy Club podcast here. Today, we are joined by 1/3 of the Some Laugh trio, Marc Jennings. And he's going to be joining us to talk about all things comedy. And we're even going to take a deep dive into why there's so many comedians from Clydebank. So if that sounds like something that you might enjoy, then sit back, close your eyes, unless you're driving, and relax and enjoy. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Ba-da-da-da.
Well, look about, ooh-wee.
Yeah, I've been really bad for it. We've started.
Yeah.
I've been really bad for it. Like, I just start talking with real confidence, and then no one ever checks me. And actually,
But it's because you sound like you know what you're talking about.
I know. I think that's toxic masculinity.
Yeah, I do
think
as
you
well.
all just-
Hi guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today's guest is Marc Jennings.
Hello.
Is it embarrassing that I always do that?
No.
Okay.
I think it shows that you have some control.
Okay. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. It's nice. We don't really do that in our pod. We never introduce the guests
Well,
for the most part.
We were really bad at the start. When we first did the first couple, we would sit and go, "Welcome to the Stand Comedy," and we'd like go through it, and now we don't. So now we just
Yeah.
I
start.
think people like that though, because we just start.
because also,
and
it does say on the title who it is.
There'll be a big picture of
Yeah,
your face
no.
on this before it starts.
That's
Sorry.
what I'm saying.
Cut this,
I'm saying
cut
no.
this.
That's why I'm like, well, they've read who it's on this week, and the idea is always like,
Your
Yeah.
name is the
But-
name of the
but
podcast.
also, what if they don't
It's
know?
called Marc Jennings.
But also, what if they don't know how to pronounce the name? What if they read it and then they think, oh yes, Mars.
Why would you need
Jennings.
Why would you
Mars.
need to pronounce a name if you're listening to a podcast?
I don't know.
Unless,
there might be a
unless
reason.
someone says,
You did-
what podcast you listen? You go, I don't know how to say that.
And then, well, yeah, but then at the end when you say, "Oh, I've got a show coming up," and then they call up a box office and they say, "Can I have a ticket from
In the 90s.
Marc Jennings?" And they're like, "That show's not on,"
They
and then you're
call up
fucked
the
and you've
box
lost.
office.
the-
We still have
You
a
never
phone
know.
in box office. You can
You
still
never
book
know.
tickets over the phone to the stand. I have said we shouldn't be doing that, but it's
Yeah.
still a thing you can do.
How often does that happen?
Old people do
I think
it.
it happens enough that they've decided it's not worth not doing.
Yeah.
Like, it must happen regularly enough that
I
people...
think also if you want to book more than 6 tickets, you have
There's
to.
a whole system. You can't book
You can't
6
just
tickets.
book-
If you want to book more than 6, I get an email asking if I'm willing to let them come into the club or not.
Have you ever been on stage and there's been like an actual fight?
I must have been.
Was you?
I remember, like, not that long ago, I was doing a gig in Liverpool, and there was like a commotion, but it's at the back of the thing. See if it's at the back of the room beyond where you can see.
Yeah.
There's not really anything you can do about it
Yeah.
because you don't know what the fuck's going on, what happened, and whatever. And there's a point where I remember thinking, like, do I stop and address this now? Because I could feel the audience getting distracted by whatever was going on, but I was like, I just ploughed through the set, and then afterwards I came off and I found out, like, it was basically some stag do, and like one of them had, like, you know, sexually harassed one of
God,
the
for
staff
fuck's
that were seating them, and then there was this big kick up about it, and they get chucked out. But obviously, if I'd addressed that at
If
that
you'd be
point,
like, "What's going on?"
they'd be like, "Hey, what's going on with it, guys? Hey,
Yeah.
someone's had too much to drink," and it's just like, no, you know. So
Someone dying
sometimes,
laughing over there.
yeah, but you get a bit of a sixth sense sometimes on stage to whether to address stuff
Yeah.
or not. And because even I was actually telling somebody a story the other day, but I was in here doing that Freedom from Torture charity gig, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if you were in for this, but it was like they told me they were going to bring a couple of the people like who'd obviously been tortured or whatever on stage to talk. So all I had to do at the start was go up and say, "Hey guys, we're just going to have some people for the charity come up and do this." Before I could even say that, there's this guy sitting right there that just started screaming a bunch of nonsense.
Maybe I was here for that.
Yeah, but then, so I was like, "You're going to regret doing that." And then I brought them on and he was quiet. And then I came back on, start chatting. And I don't know what his deal was. I think he was maybe, I don't think he's the type of person who's normally allowed in bars. I'll say that.
Okay.
And he came in with these guys. I think they'd maybe given them a ticket.
Were
Whatever
they quite
the hell.
close to the front?
They were very,
Yes,
they're right at the
yes,
front.
yes, yes, yes,
and
yes.
then so I was just kind of, I had to keep saying to him, like, "Look, you just really need to shut up or you can chuck to it." And then Stuart comes on within like 2 minutes. He's pipes up again. So he gets chucked out. It's this whole scene. But then I came back in to say to the guys, I was like, "I think you guys need to take some responsibility for that because I think they were the reason he was there." And then I says, "Look, I want to ask you what the deal is, but I've got a feeling it might be very depressing." And they just went, "Yeah, it is." And I was like, "Okay, moving on. Let's not go there." But,
Yeah.
Dodged well, though, from your point of view. You could really lean into that.
I would have quite liked to have known him. But so I got the vibe they maybe
It was something like they didn't really know each other. They like met each other
in the pub.
And
But
they
think,
brought.
to be honest, I think he was maybe homeless or drug addict or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. So I don't know what the deal was, but yeah, he wasn't capable of not
Saying
being
something.
a disruptive part of an audience.
yeah.
Do you think you were saying when we asked you about if you were fight or flight? I'm trying to be Parkinson here. Do you think? Because you said you've never really been in many fights, you might sort of talk you out of them. Do you think that's maybe the roots of how you get into comedy?
I mean, I wasn't in that much danger that I was like having to,
Let me tell you a joke. Deal with her
fight for my wits or whatever. No, I really just kind of wanted to. I always liked having a laugh, and I thought getting into stand up. I thought I'd done English at uni, and I thought I could write. And I used to, when I started then coming here, and you would see Red Raw, and you would see people getting up, because when you've never like done it before, you come here. Like I was coming here as a student, and you see people get up here, and it might be their first gig, or they're not even comedians, but they seem like it when they're, with this backdrop behind them and all the rest of it. And then you see them doing, and you go, I could do better than that. And they're up there somehow, so maybe if I try it, kind of thing, So, but I was just kind of, the way I sort of rationalised it at the time was, me and my mates were talking about writing a sitcom, which we had absolutely no hope of ever making. But I was saying to them, because we started coming here, and then I kind of fancied doing it, and I said, well, if we could like write 5 minutes that you could go up and get some laughs, it would bode well for writing a funny script. And so I signed up, and they never. And so and this was such a weird thing actually, because my first ever gig, they were the only 2 people that knew I was even doing it. But I sauntered in at Red Raw, thinking I can get them in, and they're like, no, you don't get a comp if you're
not for Red Raw, no.
Not for Red Raw. And so they went round the corner to just sit, and they were going to get me after it. And then I don't even know how this person knew I was looking for tickets, but at one point I was like running up the stairs outside, and this guy just went, that's your lucky day, and gave me 2 tickets.
Wow.
They had going spare, and then I got them in, and they got to watch my first.
And that
set.
was Scott Haddon.
Oh, it probably was.
Yeah.
No, it was just a punter.
Just a guy.
I was just a punter.
He was your like your guardian angel or something. Maybe he wasn't even real.
But sometimes like that, there's weird serendipitous things that do happen now and again, and I'm a bit of a believer in that type
So
of
was
thing.
your first ever live stand-up gig Red Raw on the stage?
Yeah.
What do you remember any of your material?
I remember the whole set. I done 5 minutes about Michael Barrymore.
Oh, right, okay.
Which wasn't topical because it was like 1993 or whatever. Right? But because at the time there was a show on called The House That Made Me with various celebrities, and it was childhood homes, and I was like, surely The House That Made Them was that when that guy died in or whatever. And then so from there I started watching like YouTube videos of him interviewing Jedward and doing mad stuff and all this, and so I just had this whole bit. I think the thing I said, I remember I did get a round of applause, and it was for saying, because I was sort of saying that he should get back on the telly hosting something like Dancing on Ice, and then all the contestants would be like, oh, if this melts, we're fucked. And I get a round of applause, my first ever gig.
That is good.
So I was like, I got enough laughs
That
and
you
enough
made
of the
you want
buzz.
to
was
like
it.
do
You're
it
like,
more.
this is amazing. But
Yeah.
I didn't really do it. I done the Edinburgh one the next month or something. And I wasn't even going to go and do that because I was like, well, nobody would even know.
Right.
And then I didn't do it for like a year. But by that point, I'd left uni and stuff. And I was sort of just like kind of fucking about. And sometimes would say, oh, I'm doing some comedy stuff or writing. I wasn't there in. And then so I just got back to like doing. I think I actually came and seen Bridges doing a warm up here. And Connell was on before him. He was opening. And I went up to Darren and I was like, oh, I've done a couple of Red Raws and I'm thinking of getting into Where Do I Go? And he told me about like
that's good.
the Hulk Bar at the time up the road and all
okay.
that. And then I started getting in and just doing gigs for there. So, and then it was shite after that for a while, but I was like, I knew that I would get better.
Yeah.
So I was like, well,
yeah.
I know how it's
Like,
good, it's worth chasing
yeah.
for the good, and I know if I can handle the bad, and I'll only get better. So that was kind of the thinking.
How many people must get to the stage of it being like a bit shit and just give up? Like there must be loads of
Almost
people that,
everybody.
like,
But that's the case with everything.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
And like so, but that's I just applied that sort of growth mindset thing of like, right, if you just start out bad, you just need to work at it and get better, and it's all about learning from your mistakes and surviving failure and all these kind of things, and you just do that for years and years and years, and just fucking like just don't have a life, and then you get slightly better, and then.
So was it quite an organic thing for you? You didn't do like the Viv G course or anything? You just kind of.
Do you know, I did end up doing Viv's course, but I think I'd applied for it and I just missed the deadline or something, so I ended up doing it the following year. When
Does it only happen once a year?
At the time, I don't know how it works now,
Not
but
sure.
like it was because it was like a night class once a week at Strathclyde, and but by the time I'd done it, I was about a year in and I'd done like 30 gigs,
Sure.
which compared to everybody else in the class made me like fucking like I was like a veteran. So, and I used to sometimes I remember like running for her gig, for her course to go and do like the hall up the road and stuff like that. But what that really made me realise, it was kind of like validating what I'm talking about, is like, oh, you just get better if you do it more. So I'd done like 30 gigs, these people had maybe done none or one or something. And so I was just like, I was already better just because of that. But that in itself was quite a good point to be at, where you've got a bit more experience than the people that were in that wee class. And you just take it there.
And then it makes you think, you know.
Yeah, but stuff like that is good, and I think sometimes it like just gives you a context for stuff, or it'll point you in the right direction of certain books. Like I'm a big believer in like doing the kind of the sort of research and the actual practice of it, because it's good to read some books and figure out how to write jokes and all that kind of stuff, but you also need to go out there and just learn from doing it as well. So
there's only so much you can learn from something that you've read.
The field and the lab is to, you know what I mean, if you want to take it, look at it as a science. Theory and practice is the words I was actually looking for. I couldn't think. It's been a long time since I've done either of those, really. So
I don't know, I'd say you're still notably one of the few people that actually has a notebook. I'd say a lot of folk write on their hand or like write on their phone, whereas you've still got the pen and paper and you still do your notes.
I used to see the notepad I've got. I used to work in a call centre and they had them, and I would just like nick them all the time.
Oh, really?
And so I just out of sheer habit,
that's what
I just
use,
ordered loads of the same one. I just like something about that size of notepad. I just like having it, but. I mean, obviously, if I come with a notepad, sometimes I feel guilty because you're like, I should have just learned this. But obviously, if I'm trying stuff out or whatever, it's good to.
But sometimes it can be funny. Like you can like make the fact that you've like forgotten what you're saying. You can like make
use it
that
as a bit
funny.
of a crutch. Like that's what you would do at a lot of new material nights and stuff like that. Is you kind of. Yeah, you use that. If it doesn't land, you kind of go, okay, and scrub it out or something
There
like
was such a good bit. Joe Caulfield was doing a whiplash. It was the first whiplash, actually. But what was the actual joke? Because it's like the funny thing was because she referenced the Notebook, and she won't be able to do that again in a show. But it was so fucking funny.
She was like, "Oh, what's next?" This bit says Spain, so I guess who's heard of Spain?
But she can't do that.
By the way, I
again when she
did
doesn't
see
have a
Joe doing
notebook.
that Spain bit, and it's very, very funny.
She is so
It's a
funny.
bit.
I think she's because she's. I've only ever seen her like fully fledged shows, and she's so polished, and it's always funny. But when she was doing that, there was something even funnier about seeing her kind of like the workings.
Unfiltered.
Yeah, it was so good. Loved it. That was a really good lineup as well. Actually.
Whiplash.
Whiplash is a great show.
Is good.
It's an interesting thing about depending on where you live, your experience of the club will be ever so slightly different, because like your local comics are different. So like Jo doesn't really come through here because she lives in Leith, so she'll do the Edinburgh club semi-regularly. Whereas like people in Edinburgh wouldn't get like, well, they wouldn't get yourself as often, or they wouldn't get like Chris as often, you know what I mean? Because your guys are, West Coast based. So interesting. You should visit all the clubs and see the different people.
Yes. Because there'll be loads of people at Newcastle comics that are like regulars.
Well, most of the comics in Newcastle are Geordies, and we don't get that many Geordies up here.
Actually, most of the time I'm on in Newcastle, there's like
it's all Scottish folk.
There's at least one other Scottish folk. There was one time where it was literally like ridiculous. There was like 3 or 4, and I was on last, and I just had to be like, I think they've booked us all in the wrong bit. But what was it? Because one of them was John Scott, who does live in Newcastle, but is Scottish. So it was like it just looked pure crazy by the time I got on. But
do you think the comedy scene in Scotland? Do you think there's more comedians per capita than there is in England?
I have no idea.
Like the percentage of people who do comedy.
There's a lot.
That's an insane question. How can we possibly know that?
I just think there's like the scene is very like thriving.
There's a lot of comics, but I would say that there's a lot of people that have got a certain level of experience here that can do it. There's a lot of people that can do a good job. And I don't know what it's like in other sort of comparable cities. Obviously, London's a different ballgame altogether, but. No, I think in part it's because we've got good club. I mean, honestly, coming up in the stand is like such like an amazing thing, because it's such a good club. Everything's centred around the comedy, and I mean, sometimes I just wonder if it's because this is in the West End and you get a certain type of clientele.
Possibly.
But it's like not too rough. It's like the stand audience are like perfect like that. I remember when I used to come to Red Draw and I would think, well, at the time I was kind of age of a student. I was like, I am this audience.
Right.
I know what this audience want because I am one of them. And even I still feel like that now. Obviously, I feel a bit too old for Red Raw sometimes. But like generally, like at the standing, like even like when you see like an audience for Kevin or Frankie in here, or just a weekend one sometimes, or the Whiplash ones.
Yeah.
You just kind of go, I know who these people are,
Yeah.
and I know it's funny to them because it's the same, because they're kind of just like me,
Yeah.
and that's an amazing thing. Because even some of the other gigs in Glasgow you do, you know, it'd be a more kind of like Stag and Hen do thing, or you know, a bit like just different. Whereas that it's like if you can go, if I can learn how to play this club well, it's going to make me a good comic.
Yeah.
So, and there's just a good infrastructure in general, I think, in Scotland, certainly, you know, in the last few years.
Yeah.
So it's a good breeding ground for, you know, getting to a certain standard.
Yeah.
Like if you want to do it, there's opportunity for you. So like there's kind of, it's more of a, anyone can have a go at it, which means the good people will eventually surface in that. Because if it's too difficult to get into, then people won't try, and therefore you won't get the good people because they don't have an opportunity to do it.
And there was other wee good rooms like when we were all, like me and Chris and Steve and all that were all coming up, like Yes Bar and Blackfriars is now kind of taking that place. But like, there was a lot of good, because it used to be like, you know, before I would even think of trying it and on this stage, I would go and do it in these wee tiny rooms.
Sure.
And then by the time you get it to Red Raw, when you're doing your, you know, trying out your 10 to go on a Sunday or something, it's like, you know, it's tight. Do you know what I mean? So that was always good. And I don't know if it's there in the same way anymore, but that I think just having that sort of infrastructure where like I kind of, you know, a top tier room and then a couple other ones.
Yeah, there's like a path to.
I mean, we've talked about it in other pods before. It's nice. Like I don't in any way resent the fact there's other comedy clubs. I think it's a good thing. It's good to have a good community. It's good to have a good. It's how you build an industry. People you need to sustain yourself on this job, and that's only possible if you can play more than one gig. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
And they're all complementary. They all can offer something different. And it's good.
Yeah, because the flip side of it is as well, like, because this is such a nice room. There was, I remember seeing people when I was starting out, and they would kind of only play the stand. They couldn't play like a rough gig or anything like that. So there's something to be said for being able to go with the rough and tumble a wee bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like this is set up so perfectly, but not everywhere. Even the nicer clubs throughout the rest of the UK, very few of them are set up the way the stand is, and you know, for everything to be focused on the comedy.
What is it about Clydebank that keeps making comedians?
People's what I get it. Well, I mean, it's a bit. Well, I would say this is a phenomenon that does happen where, like, I've read a book about like how there's a certain place in Brazil where certain footballers came from, and then loads of people became footballers because of that. So obviously, with Kevin, like. You know, me and Steve were both inspired to do it because of him. Sure. I never thought I could. I wasn't like, because I think there's a lot of people that say stuff, and it's like in his book and it talks about like people that go, okay, MD could do what you do. I was the complete opposite, because he was just like I just never thought I could be like that. But I was like, it obviously must have put something in my head that like it's a thing that someone can do. And then I just thought, well, if I can do my own sort of hang of it. But I don't know, man. Like, but because he was a few years ahead of me in school, and just the school was kind of funny. Everybody was like, not everybody was funny, but like everybody, it just felt everybody was always having a laugh, and and that was kind of it. And so I don't really know, but it's just one of these things. But definitely when there's somebody who becomes successful from a place, I think it's a common sort of occurrence where other people will try and follow that.
People are like, oh,
path.
I could do that.
Yeah, even though it's extremely unlikely that there will be two people for the same place that achieve the same level, but it does happen sometimes.
Did you know Stephen when you were younger?
No, because he went to the other school.
The other school.
The other school.
Would you have
the
been in the same year?
non-dominational. I think Steve's a year younger than me.
Okay.
So, but
Stephen Buchanan.
We've got a lot of the same mates. So he used to work with one of my best mates for school, and then we started at the same time we were starting out. We were both doing wee sketches online, and then we were at his like leaving night, and we kind of got chatting, and we'd done like one gig together that we've both found on Gumtree, by the way.
What?
Amazing. There was even that.
Oh,
was a
God,
thing.
that's like.
But so no, we never knew each other growing up, but we did, and we would go to the same nightclub and stuff. So he remembers some time that we got a taxi together apparently, and he claims that I left without paying, which I don't believe. But I mean, I gave him enough lifts to gigs and all that sort of stuff that I've more than made up for it. But no, I didn't know each other growing up, but he definitely obviously became really good pals, and yeah, it's one of those ones where like. It was good to have somebody like Steve, because it's a mental world stand up, and we were from the same place, and you're like the same people, And I started, because Steve actually, when he started, was kind of only doing the stand for a wee bit.
Sure.
And I had done a bit more of the shitey gigs, and I couldn't really get in here. And then, so I sort of got to see through his eyes for the first time he would meet crazy promoters and do shitty gigs and all that. But we got to share the whole journey together often, and we would talk about it on like the drives back and all that as I dropped him off. And yeah, it was a really good thing to have somebody like a like-minded sort of
someone who
person
got both sides of
like, we know this person for Clydebank, but we also know this mad promoter who's always running dodgy gigs or whatever.
Yeah, it's quite nice.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
And then how did you fold Stuart into this when you became...
Well, Stu started a wee bit later, but like we would just sort of gig together a lot, and I always felt... I remember thinking at one point, like me, Steve and Stu, I was like, we should just basically, like, one of us should just decide who the comic's going to be and the other should just write, because everybody still say we're dead similar.
Yeah.
And I suppose in a way we've just done the podcast instead, but no, Stu, like, he done English at uni as well, so I always felt...
He actually went to the same uni as me.
He went to Dundee.
And he was like, same year as me, pals with my pals, I just didn't know him.
There you go.
Really weird.
Well, yeah, so he came along, and but he was really good, and... yeah, I think we kind of shared a lot of the same interests, and you know, I like just, you know, when you like each other's stuff. No, you end up kind of, it's like that birds of a feather thing, because like people who, you know, you like each other's stuff will bond together. I also thought it was interesting that a lot of the shite comics would end up pals with each other as well, because you're like, all their mental illness must be congealing in the one thing, you know.
It is funny, like working here, you can really see the groups.
The groups.
And you know, like if there's like a lineup. Sometimes you're like, oh, they're all pals, we'll have a nice time in the green room together. And other times you're like, oh
no.
Someone's not going in the green room.
There was, during the Fringe a few years back, there was a comic who I won't say, who I really did not enjoy working for them, and made me cry every day.
Well, thanks for having me on it.
And then a couple of months after, a different comic did a solo show, and they were also a nightmare. And they then referenced the first person saying, "Oh yeah, like one of my best friends, blah blah." And in my head, I was like, "Of course, you're a fucking pal." Wow. It just makes so much sense how like that you both treat the staff exactly the same. Yeah, and it's You
I'm
can
racking
just
my brains trying to work out who this was.
I think I know who it is.
It'll come to me.
We'll say it after.
Tell me after.
Yeah, as soon as it stops recording, I'll say. But I'm not saying.
And Mark will be like, "Oh, I love those guys."
Yeah, my best friend.
They're my best friends.
So
Stephen Buchanan's show with person, if anyone is.
So obviously the Some Laugh podcast has been kind of massive for you in a lot of ways. It's been great, like to see what it's. I mean, you guys doing live shows at like the Pavilion and stuff, and like doing big stuff. Like, how did that start, and what was the ambition for it? Like, and yeah.
I mean, it's went about as well as we could have realistically expected, I would say, and that was, to be honest, kind of the hope. Like, we've got the wee studio set up there, and I had just learned a lot about like editing and filming and lights and all that kind of stuff, and so I put together the space. And I said to Steve, because he was still living in Clydebank at the time, I was like, "Do you want to do a podcast, and we'll just chat to comics?" Because there wasn't really one of those in Scotland. Like, loads of people had one that were for like films or music or whatever. And then he said, "Oh, Stu says he's up for it as well." And I was like, "Oh, great," because they did have their film podcast, which was one of my favourites. And as I say, like the three of us had always been close, so we started it and then just kind of done a few, and just I didn't really know what we were doing, just chatting shit, and then obviously started getting guests on. But for me, the key was to. Because this backdrop's basically been the same the entire time, and the way it's filmed and all that. But I was always like, well, the way this is going to grow is through the clips.
Yeah.
And so if it looks good and it's fun and it's funny, and so we got some good clips, and it started helped with that, and then people seen it and started getting guests, and it built up. But yeah, a lot of it, for me, it was like, yeah, because in a way I was just like, well, we need more video content. I've got this place. Let's do a podcast and let's generate more of it, and then that's kind of.
Snowboard.
Yes, how it's worked.
Do you think you would have done one by yourself?
I did kind of try. I had a few different versions. Me and Alassie Rachel used to work here. Had one for a while during COVID, and then I did do one myself for a couple of episodes, and then chucked it. But that was before I really had the setup that I've got now. Right. So maybe, I don't know, but I just at the time, like, I think you need to be a certain type of personality to just do it, because there's certain people that just do one and they just rant for an hour, like a Tim Dillon or Bill Burr or somebody like that. Like, I'm no probably that type of way, but
you could
I could interview people. I think
like Sam Lake's got one where he has a different guest.
So yeah, maybe by the time. By the time we didn't even know if we would have guests in it, we were just like, let's do the three of us. And since Steve then moved away from Clydebank, I think it's more of a pain in the arse for both of them to come around every week. But no, it's been really great, and it's been a great way to like kind of bring in other comics, and sometimes that then we can introduce to our audience, and then
that's quite nice.
See them. And sometimes as well, it's nice to just have people that are like bigger names that come on and do that. So no, it's been one of the best things I've ever done in my career. It's and the Pavilion was an amazing night.
That's so cool.
We really got lucky with how everything went on the night, and we had great guests, and it was so much fun. So no, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
Do you think there's more of that in the future, or like is this?
They really go on tour.
Is the train slowing down, or are you going to keep going? Like, what's the plan?
With the live show, I mean, the only thing with the Pavilion is a lot of work, and I was pretty stressed out for it. So it's also kind of hard to top. I don't really know, like, other than just going back and doing it again with different people, but it's kind of hard to replicate, and because a live pod is difficult because like it's that thing where you're just doing the podcast, where normally there's no expectation to be funny every 20 seconds or whatever there is on stage, whereas suddenly you're on stage, there's that pressure and you've got no safety net because you've not got material. So we always try and kind of have some wee pillars to go off. So for the Pavilion, and we did have wee sections. We had a set piece with Darren and the is the Phantom of the Opera and the Royal Box.
So funny on that.
We done like a Mr. and Mrs. thing based on like me and Stu being Steve's best men and all that kind of thing, and then we have guests to kind of keep it rolling. But it's really difficult to keep the ball in the air, and especially in front of that many people. You're a bit like, this could really go tits up, you know.
For sure.
But and people are there. Like the first one we done was in here actually, and it was amazing because people, just because they know you and all that, it is a lot easier to just like, you're just being yourself, and people are enjoying
people are like
for
there
that.
for that.
For that. So it's a hard one to navigate, because as a stand-up, instinctively you're always kind of like,
you're like, it needs to be laughing.
Punchline.
I listened to the Sam Laugh podcast, and I asked Mark what are some of his favourite guests.
I mean, we've had, to be honest, almost too many to mention, but like the big one that we got early on was Greg Hempel, and that was like, that was our first sort of big get, and Greg was really, really lovely and gave us some really great stories, and that was class. And he was obviously back for the live show as well, which was amazing. Darren Connell again, Raymond Mearns, of course, unsurprisingly, but that was one of the, and that made the wee supercut, and that was like, I think it was just because it captured what it's like to like sit with Raymond backstage and just hear him like rhyme off all the stuff about the books he's reading and the drinking and all this kind of rest of it. So but no, like, it's always people with big personalities. Like even Grado was brilliant on it, and
Grado
like
was so funny.
Gary Little as well, obviously had some brilliant stories. Like, and again, a lot of folk we've got into the live show. So Sam Campbell was a fun one.
Was there a reason that you were dressed like Elvis? Or?
Yeah, there was. I have to tell you exactly why. Because I was in Newcastle at the stand actually, and I seen Sam was in Glasgow, and I wasn't quite sure of the dates, but I'm like, but I'd met Sam at the previous Fringe. I didn't really think he knew me, but then he'd see me and he goes, "Some Laugh, it's a great podcast." and then CMB said that he'd spoke to him and he wanted to meet Raymond because he'd listened to that episode. He's like, "I want to meet this Raymond Mearns guy." And then
I couldn't imagine them in the same
it's amazing.
room.
I don't know who would get the words in, but what would the conversation be like? But I see it. But so and Sam. There was a point, I don't know if it's still the case, but people would say you can only email him. That was the only way you could get in touch with him. And I was on with Gareth Watt at the weekend, because it was Stan Newcastle and there's always another Scottish person. And Gareth's like, I email him all the time just about random stuff. And I was like, can you give me his email? So I just put the thing as Sam Laugh, and then I sent,
That's good.
I was just like, I just made it daft, and I was just like, do you want to do the pod? And he goes, yeah, Keen, can we all dress like Elvis or something? So I'm in like the fucking stag do capital of the UK anyway. So I go along to this fancy dress shop. I get 4 Elvis costumes, and then
so
I
funny.
just thought that would be brilliant, and it was excellent. And we didn't reference it the
Yeah.
entire
That's
episode.
so
So good. He also
He looks great as Elvis,
Yeah.
by the way. I must say, he looked really good.
He also did like loads of edits. He like kept suggesting edits for the
And he did do them all. To be
He
fair,
did them?
He
Oh,
did them.
nice.
Yeah,
That's so funny.
Because there's a wee like Catholic chain thing. Is
Just
that,
above,
is that
yeah,
not
yeah.
his? I think that's his because he was wearing it at one point.
No,
I think that's
love
that,
It's like a wee
that predates me. I
crucifix.
think
David put it up.
It was
I was
David
watching
I
him.
think
Mine
it might
was
be
hung
from
it.
Sam Show because
Could
I
be.
think he was wearing a wee crucifix for a while for a
Possibly.
laugh.
when
Some laugh.
That show was so funny.
I'm trying to work out when this pod will come out, just in terms of release schedule. We may have moved by the time this comes on.
What?
But
Nah.
we might have
Am
done.
I? No, I'm supposed to
It's
make
not that long away.
Quite a lot, yeah.
But I'm trying to think of
yeah,
a
we're
way.
moving. Did you not know?
Oh, I'm aware.
I'm trying to
I'm
find a way
aware.
to bring. We're trying to bring as much of the
Yeah, we should just
of the
remove
bricks and
that
mortar as we
abandoned
possibly
hope.
can. So we're going to bring the abandoned hope. We're actually physically bringing the doors to the room.
You told me this,
Yeah.
which made me sad about what may become of this place.
Well, I mean,
Doorless.
we're leaving this place, so I think I imagine this will
So it
become
means that you
part of
can
the,
still get huckled through it in the new place.
Yeah,
until
yeah,
you're
yeah,
swinging a
exactly.
punch out.
That's the main
got to keep
reason.
the Wild West vibes going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to think of a way to keep the abandoned hope.
We
Or
need
if
to
we
keep
should
as
add
much
like
You
an
just
extra-
should do
you
it.
just write
still,
again.
Yeah.
still abandoned
Yeah,
hope.
because it's just in chalk. But
just
it would
in
be
chalk.
cool to bring the actual thing.
I think there's also in the green room bit. It's like a chalk wall, and I think that we should use chalk pens in the next place.
Yeah, I'm
rather
gonna
than
bring all
actual-
this
I think pens.
There's a conversation
No,
around whether we bring this stage with. I mean, it's tatty as hell, but like whether we
I
take
think we
this
bring the
actual
dick.
physical stage with us, or if we get a new one for the new place, whatever. But I think Susan Morrison was saying if we don't bring this and then we're getting rid of this, she wants this bit of the stage, the bit that's all like stepped on. She wants to keep that and put it on her wall.
Aww.
There was always a bit, I don't know if it's still here, but there was always a squeaky bit in
Yeah,
that
there
stage.
was.
And it used to always annoy me because like you knew you were struggling if like
If you
if
had
you
to
could
like
hear
no one
it.
to scream.
Well, also she's been salted.
I was gonna say with the I want in the new place to have comedians' heights on the wall. You know, like
Well, there was that
There
for a
was,
bit.
yeah.
That's
There
not
is
going to go
the-
down well
Why?
on the comments.
they
You're
should
not worried. You're
get
totally
like on the
fine.
tip.
I'll be
Tiptoes.
fine. I'll be fine. I'm just, I'm speaking, listen, I'm just speaking on behalf. Some of my best friends are under 6 foot, all right? And I just want to
You can say C and B, it's fine.
standing up for my short kings
Short
because
kings, yeah.
if they do it for themselves, you might not see them. So
But it would just take one person to do like the lowest notch and then put someone
Oh,
there. But,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I think it's that because it is on the wall just now, but obviously it's in
It
chalk,
rubs
so
off.
It gets rubbed off, yeah.
There was one time that Sean wanted to play a trick on CMB, so he like was setting up. I don't know if maybe I can't remember. Maybe he was hosting, and he like made the microphone like the
As small
lowest
as
it
he
could
possibly
possibly
could.
go, and he thought it would be really funny. And then Christopher came out on stage and didn't reference it
Was
at all.
perfect.
And no. And then like he like saw it and he was like, oh okay, and then did the show. And then Sean was convinced that he hated them for like
Oh,
months afterwards.
Maybe he
Man,
does.
maybe he did.
Maybe he
Right in,
does.
Chris. Do you hate Sean?
Maybe he did.
I was gonna say about Sam Campbell as well. Back to that, the worst day I ever had at work. I was running around and had definitely been crying, and it was
Was
in
this in
Edinburgh.
Edinburgh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was just really stressful day. Ran down the stairs to do the show, tripped on the last step, and fell into Sam Campbell.
What,
And
and
then
what
the-
did he say?
Nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. No, it looked up and I'd never met him before, and then I just went and like ran off. And then I wanted to go up. I was gonna wait till the end of the show to then say like, sorry, that was I didn't mean to barrel into you. That was not my intention. But he left. He
Sad.
left really
I'm sure
quickly.
he's used to women falling in his arms.
It was oh god, it was such a bad.
I
bad
feel
day.
like you talk about crying at work once a podcast.
This is a great place to work, guys. Stand Comedy Club.
You've never cried in Glasgow.
That's not true.
that is not true.
Have you? No, have you?
I remember when I used to go, like when I'd first go to Edinburgh Standing, it was like fucking Shelbyville because it's like because you got used to it here and then like, it was all the same there but just slightly different.
Yeah, it's like
the
you're
I think
in
it's
a-
like
in a
Twilight,
dream or
it's Twilight
something.
Zone. The
Yeah.
first time I ever went to the Newcastle place, I was like, "This is so
It's like it's
weird.
all the
It's like
colours are the same,
but not the
yeah,
same."
it's really weird.
And everyone's got a funny
And they all
voice.
speak weird. though.
The
No.
Newcastle Club's great. I was there yesterday. Actually, I was. We were down for a big. All the managers were having a meeting, so we were all, which doesn't happen very often, that me and Kat and Dora and Mike were all in the same place at the same time, plus the kind of guys from the office. But I stayed because If I go, it's 3 hours for me to get to Newcastle, so it's 6 hours of travel.
They meet up and they go, let's keep ignoring all these open spots emails. Let's do it.
We're toying with the idea of the
And while I'm at it, why the fuck is,
we're toying with the idea of the bleep being some sort of
I'm not going to
bespoke
get this, I'm going to say that.
what was I even saying? Oh, I liked Newcastle. That's what I was going to say.
I like
good
the
one.
tiles. I wish we had tiles.
It's good that they've got the bar upstairs and
Yeah,
all that
that's
stuff.
true.
as well. It's good.
And then the new place will have that.
Have a
basically.
second bar,
so.
be good, yeah.
And we'll
there
have
was
an
Nish
outside
Kumar.
bit.
Yeah, we will do. And
Oh yeah, Nish Kumar's on.
but
Why
Nish
not
Kumar
you?
was on. He was great, to be fair. He did. Well, the thing is, Nish started in the Northeast, so he went to like Durham University or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
So he
yeah,
did
yeah.
his first kind of like stand up there. So he decided that he'd been on tour for, I don't know,
A million
long
years,
time, and he'd
yeah.
just come back from the States, and it was kind of the end of the tour. And before he filmed it, he wanted to just do a couple more, and he decided he'd do them up where he started. So he did
Nice.
the club in Newcastle. And he was great, to be fair. It was. I think I'd mostly only really see. I don't think I'd ever seen Nish do stand up before,
Oh,
other than
okay.
just seeing him doing like panel shows and stuff. His live show is full on. It's like Mark Thomas level of rant, like just
And
like
he's Altman-esque as well.
it's very
He's-
funny. I have to
yeah,
say,
he's so
he did
good.
great. But
I've seen him do a weekend in here once, and he had a very funny bit about Monopoly. I seem to remember. He smashed it on Saturday night. So, people say he smashed
You
it.
can be clever on a Friday and
You can
Saturday.
be clever.
You don't have to
You
just
do
talk
your
about
clever shit.
poo and pee.
I always think it's quite interesting when we take a curveball on a weekend and we put someone on that's not your kind of standard. Like it's like we had Ada Camp in recently doing
Yeah.
comparing, and I thought that was really it worked really well. And if the odd occasion you get Paul Curry on to do like a headline slot, it's like what's it like putting a dadist clown on
Yeah.
for like a headline
People
spot?
like
what,
it.
huh?
Like Dada, like it comes from the
Dada.
Dada art movement, or
Mama.
the Dadaist art movement.
Oh, okay.
That's like kind of where his background is and what inspires his clown stuff. Can he's like a sort of more clown version of like Vic and Bob in terms of like this nonsensical like Dadaist art movement is what.
Because their new show is Dada Dojo.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. There you
Dad,
Plug.
go. Plug.
Yeah, that's
But I also
Would
think
you
it's cool
ever
when you put someone a bit random
be a
on.
clown.
No. Next question.
Disdain for clowns.
I don't know. Do you know what? Some of the bit I've seen a
Some of
lot.
my best friends are clowns.
No, they're not my friends, but I have a respect for them. No, I've seen a lot of great clowning shows at the Fringe. Julia Masley and I guess Zach Zucker's that kind of clown.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's all brilliant, and I'm envious of it. But the thing, right? Because here's the thing, right? So these people that do the clowning, right? They go to this guy called Goalie in
yeah.
France, right? And he basically like tears apart their self-respect, right? And goes, "You are shit. Why do you do? Oh, well," and like they really batter them down. But I don't think you need that if you grew up in Glasgow. You got that already.
That's already happened.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that what was Viv G's class? Anything like that?
yeah. She just
same accent.
Yeah, she does the same accent.
Viva G.
No, Viv's is almost like you're trying to rebuild people's self-esteem.
Aw.
They've
quite
never,
sweet.
because they've
Never
never
had
had it. Because that's it. It's all posh English cunts that are going down and like
Yeah.
having some French guy be the first time anyone's ever been not nice to them.
Yeah.
Whereas in Glasgow, it's like you actually need a bit of the opposite.
Someone needs to give you a cut.
Yeah,
Give you a wee
but-
cuddle.
So a shame.
What kind of stuff do you find funny?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
They say nothing.
Right wing cancelled comedians.
Yeah.
Because you can't say any anymore. So,
These days.
I mean, I do find, the stuff you find funny often is like stuff that's different to what you can do. So I do love like seeing like clowning stuff. Or like I always think like Paul McDaniel's a good example.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Paul's totally different to me,
Yeah.
but Paul's like always been so funny to me, and like just is. I even love just watching the crowd react to Paul.
Yeah.
Because like. And like my sister, I remember she came and seen me and Steve when we'd done our first wee show at the Fringe with Paul on as a guest one day, and she's seen him and she's been like his pure number one fan
Oh,
ever since. And
really?
like, and just watching people in the crowd that you sort of maybe would prejudge and go, they're not going to like this, and then they fucking love
Yeah.
him. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, so just stuff that's, obviously in this good, basically. Do you know what I mean? But in terms of what I guess, I don't know. Like, obviously you've got your own thing you try and do, but no, like it's there's a place for everything really. People that are like it needs to be this way, it needs to be that way.
Yeah.
Like it can be so much.
Yeah.
I would say it's notable that, you watch you watch it. Like I
Yeah,
have to say,
you
like
do
whenever
watch
you're
more
on,
than
I
other
notice that
people.
you come out and watch
Yeah.
the show.
I just like to. It's more for the audience, to be honest. To get a
Sure.
gauge. It depends. It obviously depends on who's on. Sometimes you do want to watch certain people, but like
I
sometimes
mean, what, like you can come out and be like, that someone's been spoken to already. And you
that
can,
I like to try and do that if I can watch the compare, because the thing is, like, if somebody's been spoken to in the front row and there's been this big thing that's happened, and then you come on last and you've just walked in and you've not seen the show, you're the only person in the room
Yeah.
He's not aware of
who's
that,
not in on whatever the
Yeah.
fuck's happened.
Yeah.
So obviously sometimes it's unavoidable if you're doing another gig or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
but it's good to know that. And also just it's good to get a gauge of the room, because like, you know, if you see somebody in like the stuff that usually smashes isn't going as
Yeah.
well, you're kind of like, okay,
You
sort
can
of re-gauge
adjust what you're going to do.
and
Yeah.
or you just even re-gauge your expectations. Like, okay, they're
mm-hmm.
a bit quiet tonight. Oh, they're fucking really up for it tonight. You know, I'm going to need to kind of bring it, sort of thing. So yeah, stuff like that. It's good to just get a kind of gauge of the room. I
Yeah.
think.
I think it's always noticeable when somebody does that and when they don't do that.
Yeah.
As in, like,
Yeah.
when it's like the crowd can tell that you've paid attention or that you haven't paid attention. And it's like, I think in the mind of the audience, they think that the comedians just sort of appear from nowhere. And then when you reference something that's happened previously, they're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
we were here for that. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, it like blows their mind.
Yeah, they don't realise how small that backstage is, and that actually somebody's better just watching.
Yeah.
But no, that is always really effective if you can reference something that's happened before
Yeah.
or whatever. And yeah, so it's a good tool to do it, but sometimes it's a long show to sit through if you're on at the end and you're just looking for that one wee bit. You're like, you know, I'm just going to go backstage and chat to somebody.
This week we had Tom Lawrenson in doing his solo show, and I wasn't working it, so I came in just to watch it, and it was so funny.
It was really
and
good.
CMB was supporting, and I was like, this is all these people are in for an absolute treat.
And for a Monday night as well, the crowd was like really good. It was like, because you know sometimes like on a weekday, people are a bit like,
Sure.
yeah,
Well, they're not drunk.
Well, yeah,
Which-
maybe that's what it
Yeah.
was. But they were,
It's
yeah,
true.
It was
great.
so good.
Yeah.
Please come back.
We
Please
just got
come
a power of 0%. I put a tap of 0% on the bar when I got here, and everyone was like, "That's insane."
People love it.
Who's laughing now? It was a good idea.
Nice, well done, you.
Thank
Become
you.
popular. It's also good for for me, because especially when I'm here, I'll be driving, because I'm just far enough away that it's a pain in the arse to get here otherwise. So but that is good, because I remember reading in like Frankie's book or something, he was talking about like, you know, if you work in a bar every night and have a couple of drinks, you're going to become an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And so I always thought like having to drive to gigs and stuff is like a good way to stop that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also do probably take advantage of it too much when I'm not, like when I'm not getting in my car. But like 0% stuff
Yeah.
have changed the game, because like see having to sit and drink pure 5
It's a
colas
lot
over
of sugar.
Yeah, it's too
Yeah.
much. Yeah,
over
exactly.
the course of the night, but you can just have one and it's the placebo
Yeah.
effect of having
Yeah.
a wee
and you
beer
feel
and
it's
stuff.
like
You drink
you
it
feel like you're
slower.
doing something that everyone else is. Yeah,
Yeah.
Totally.
I also think that if you have a 0% beer, people don't like.
they don't register.
They don't
that, yeah.
register it because
But-
obviously
but
you can't tell.
But some of the glasses get fucking 0%, big massive
Yeah.
fucking zero.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a downer. Just have it on the thing. You're like,
Yeah. It is interesting with
blend in.
like I would say more comedians than ever are conscious of like not getting fucked before a gig or like conscious of the fact that
Yeah.
they're in a place most of the time where there's lots of alcohol and stuff like, so there's less alcoholism in comedy now than there probably ever was. And it's maybe similar to like the way like the game is becoming more professional in the
Yeah.
same way that like it happens with football, it happens with like
Yeah, I know. It's
You know
like
what I mean?
back in the day, like when this place started, it was everybody was like George Best,
Yeah,
and they were all
yeah.
having to be like, you know, Messi and
Yeah.
you know,
And that was,
Mbappe
like,
and all this
part
stuff.
of it, but-
yeah, no, I think it is. It's just the way, kind of the way the world changes. And
Yeah.
like, I think part of it is probably, I mean, people have said before, like, because you know, you do podcasts and you need to put your clips online and stuff like that. People are a bit more, you know,
They're
body
conscious,
conscious
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
But I just think it's just. Yeah, it's the nature of it. I guess people sort of try and look at this as they do with everything, like a career or a business or what have you. And so you want to have a methodical approach to your act and all the rest of it. And if you're getting up absolutely fucked, then, you know, it's a bit harder to do that. But
Yeah.
it's I think it's good to get a good balance, because I do now and again. It is great. Like I'm doing Newcastle this weekend, and Gareth Much is on, and you know I look forward to having a wee pint or two with him, and you know, a novelty of staying in the hotels right
Yeah.
next to it, and
Yeah.
it's just, you know, have a fun wee weekend, and
Yeah.
I think it's good to keep about that, especially when that's what's good about doing club gigs, when you're on with a good lineup and
Yeah.
you can chat backstage and have a laugh, and you know, you swap your kind of. There's a lot of camaraderie
Yeah, for sure.
involved in it, swapping the stories,
Yeah,
hearing
yeah.
about, and if you're on with like an older comic, he tells you know, you're on with somebody new and
Yeah.
looking for advice for you and all this kind of stuff. So it's great. It's a great.
that is it's like really cool
experience,
that
yeah.
that's like your job.
Yeah, it's
like-
also a crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, you could tell one person one thing, and then a couple of weeks later,
Oh,
everyone
well.
just knows stuff.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
what?
that's
I know,
true,
you need to
that's
be
true.
careful.
There's also
Something,
certain people
yeah.
you don't like. Ray Bradshaw, don't tell him it. Don't tell him it. But it's, you know, you can, that I think think it opens your eyes quite quickly to how well connected the industry is and how well people
It's
talk
nice.
to each other. Kind of
For the most part, it's nice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's great. It's a great life, and it's an amazing. It's the range of people you meet, and it's a kind of crazy dream sometimes, to be honest. But it's also like, you know, it's when you do it long enough, sometimes certain aspects of it get a wee bit old, and that's why you maybe want to then, you know, shift into touring and all the rest of it. But as a way, you know, I've basically spent my entire 20s and most of my my first part of my 30s now doing it, and do you know what? There's a lot worse ways to be living. It's been, I've had some amazing experiences, so it's great.
Yeah, well done.
presumably this is, you don't have any ambition to move on. This is it. This is your job.
I made it. Doing this podcast now.
Did you ever have a normal person job, or did you just go straight from uni to this?
I don't give two fucks.
Yeah, I used to own a call centre for years.
We've been over this before. I know the answers to some of the questions that I ask. It's about the listener and the watcher.
Sorry.
I worked. I graduated uni, and I was fucking about in Asda for about another year while I was still working there part time. And
The big Asda in Clydebank.
Yeah.
24 hours now.
And
Is
then
it still 24 hours? Because a lot of them have stopped being 24 hours.
I'm not sure.
apparently.
I've not been there
I
for a while.
believe that's
It's
still
a
24
scandal.
hours.
My
Well,
brother briefly worked in the Blockbuster down in Clydebank.
Your family loves Blockbuster.
Well, my brother worked in the Bears Den one first, and then he got me in. So I then
You've
went to
got Blockbuster energy, I would say. What's
What's that mean?
That would be a good show name.
Blockbuster
Energy.
Energy. I'm going to take it as a compliment because I've got no other way to take that, I suppose.
Yeah.
Hopefully this venue does not go the same way as your former employers.
Yeah, no,
On
for
the rare
real.
occasion that I have to hand out a CV, which doesn't happen very often, the very last thing on my CV does say former manager of Blockbuster, and there's an asterisk at the very bottom of my CV says not responsible for bankruptcy. And I always thought that was quite a fun little joke thing. And
Yeah.
if they didn't like me on the basis of that, I don't
Then
want to
you
work for
don't
them.
know.
You're
Sorry.
not like the other girls.
You were saying.
He's not getting the job because he couldn't stop Netflix's rise to power, you know.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
No, I used to work in a call centre, and do you know what was weird? Because I worked there full time for about nearly a year, because I'd run out of money and I was just trying to get my folks off my back and all that, and then but I hated it so much, and I was going to. I just thought I want to just get like another job in like a coffee shop or a bar or something, and I can just do gigs around that. And I got this job in Bunker in Bath Street, and it was. But the problem with that, it's not just a bar; it's open till 3 in the
It's a
morning.
nightclub,
There's a pre nightclub bar that's open the same hours as a nightclub, basically. So is the hours and that were a nightmare, and I was bad at it. Didn't know how to make cocktails, and then I had a few like kind of wee shifts where they put you on for a couple of hours, then send you home. And my first shift till finish was a 10-hour shift on Easter Thursday, which is like they say it's as bad as Christmas Eve or something like that. And I was so overwhelmed. And then I remember like coming off to do glass collecting after a few hours of just like being terrible and making somebody the worst mojito that's ever been made and all this kind of stuff. And I just remember thinking, I could just leave. Like I could just walk out the door. But at the time, and this sounds dramatic, but I was reading Nelson Mandela, A Long Walk to Freedom, right? And I was like,
Shut the fuck up.
I was like, if Madiba could survive those 27 years, I can get through this 10-hour shift.
That's so funny.
That's so great. Bunker was your Robin Island. That's so
It
good.
really was. But then the next day I went into I was working the next morning in the call centre, and I went in and I said to my boss, can I please go part-time? And thankfully the timing was just right that they swapped that about. And so I was part-time for the most part, which helped, because a lot of time I'd be like on till 8 and I need to fucking
You have to
sprint
run
here
to a gig.
to get to Red Raw
Yeah.
or to Yes Bar, I was around the corner and stuff like that. So it actually worked out really well with my gigs and stuff like that. But and you know, so I'd done that for a few years, and eventually I ran out of holidays because I'd taken them all to do gigs around the country, and I had to take off the fringe, so I just had to quit.
Wow.
But by that point, I'd sort of started making enough
Yeah.
money for gigs that I could kind of get by.
Has anyone ever enjoyed working in a call centre?
I think it's
The
impossible.
managers.
I read a book. There's a guy who was like a tutor at LSE, London School of Economics, and he wrote this book called Working the Phones. And so he went undercover. To be fair, it was an outbound one, so they were cold calling. I was customer service, which is pretty cushy as call centres go. But he had this really good back because he's comparing it to all this Marxist stuff and all that, right? And like I used to even have a joke about like in the supermarkets, like the people who stack the shelves should own them and all this type of thing. It's like the worker sees the means of production. And in the book he said, he's like, well, the thing about a call centre is that actually the most revolutionary act you can make is to leave, because nobody wants to work the phones. So even if you fucking owned the company, you still wouldn't want to do that job. So it's like, in a way,
Right,
you
yeah.
leave, so do you
So
know
then
what I mean?
you're just like, oh.
So it's like, no, that's it. I was more revolutionary by leaving the call centre.
Man. It's sort of. It's such a dystopian thing that so many of them exist, and so many people. It's like the only job that they can get to begin
And
with.
yeah,
Like,
how hard is it to get people on the phone?
well, exactly.
You just get like shouted at all the time and stuff
Yeah,
like that. It's just,
horrible.
I found it quite psychologically difficult because you just never know what the next thing's going to be, but you know at some point you're going to have like these big arguments with people and
and
stuff.
you can't
it's like
you
getting
can't just like
heckled full
stop.
time.
Yeah, it kind of is. So
Did you have the thing? My friend worked in a call center, and it was like you got a certain number of like timed breaks a day. Like you got 3 minutes to go to the toilet.
well, that used to be my bit on
Oh,
stage.
really?
But
Oh, right,
yeah,
okay.
it's like you would get. If it was a minute to walk to the bathroom, a minute back, so you get 3 minutes to take a shit.
yeah.
And then the whole thing was, I used to say like, and customers would phone you up going, your company's this and that and the other. And you think that's bad? I get disciplined for taking 4 minutes to their shit or whatever the fuck it was. But yeah, I used to have that big bit about the call centre and stuff like that. And it's everything's timed. The amount of time you take, from call to call and between calls and all of that sort of stuff. But it wasn't the worst. Like you ended up once you figured out how to do it. But I remember the first day being on the phones, and because you don't know what you're doing, and you're straight on there like in the front line, and it was like Vietnam or something. Like by the first hour, like people are crying. You've lost a bunch of folk already.
God.
It was traumatic. It was
Can you
crazy.
tell dramatic about your old work?
No, but it wasn't a good. I mean, yeah.
Marc Jennings.
Why do you think I had to turn to reading Nelson Mandela's fucking autobiography? I was trying to get myself through it, man.
Oh my god. Being on the phones is hard. I still find it hard.
It's tough, and I don't envy one. That is like, see if you do that as a job, you'll do almost anything to never have to go back to it.
I've like the only phones job I've done. Oh no, I've done two where it's been in a box office. So I did it at the Pleasance, bad job, and at the Stand. And at the Stand, it's like you're doing loads of other stuff, and all you're doing is like respond to people who either want to buy a ticket or I don't. But it's still bad. Like you don't want to pick it up.
No,
I've remembered someone that was literally on this podcast that loved that job.
who?
Was it Paul Black?
Raymond Marantz.
Oh,
He said he was the best at it.
Yeah,
the
no, but it
bestseller.
wasn't
The
the
bestseller.
phones part. It was like he likes the sales.
But he talked about like he loved being on the phones because he was so good at it. Listen to that episode.
Was it the
like,
phone specifically? Or was
Yeah,
it-
because like he would do all the pattern and stuff. He said he was great at it, and then because remember his boss came and said, "How have you done this?" Like,
no, he said he did. He said he was really good at it, but he didn't like it.
oh, is that what he said?
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
there's people that get good.
I should listen back to
dead
that.
good at sales, but I always felt it was dead manipulative because they would always go, build rapport with the customer and all that, and you'd always need to like, ask them about their day and all that. But the only reason you were doing that was to upsell them,
Yeah,
find a weakness.
it's so like,
upsell
it's
them
so
like
horrible.
breakdown cover or something.
Yeah.
And like I always just thought like. I don't know, I just always thought it was dead inauthentic,
Yeah.
and I would rather just deal with the thing, and I knew they didn't want to be bothered with this and that,
Yeah.
so I was bad at that because I had a fucking morals or something, I don't
Yeah.
know, but
That was one of the worst things about Blockbuster is people come in. Have I said this on the pod before?
Just
People
say
would
it.
come in and be like getting like a copy of Bambi for 50p for like a 7-day rental.
Oh, yeah.
And then I had to upsell them a Blu-ray player, which at the time was £300. And I'd be like, "So see, you've got Bambi for the week. Can I interest you in this £300 Blu-ray player?" I'd be like, "No, just Bambi, thanks." I'm like,
my God.
"Cool." It's like, what the fuck am I doing this for? It was horrible.
God.
It's like
Did
people.
you ever go?
maybe if your sales technique was a bit better,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have went under
I should have
it.
got Raymond. Should have got
Yeah.
Raymond.
Stakes away, please.
Did you ever go to Blockbuster?
We had a place called Global Video near me.
Yeah, I had
There was
it.
a massive Blockbuster in Clydebank though.
I must have went at some
Doesn't
point, but
mean you
nearer
went
in my house there was a Global Video,
I had
we went
it
to
somewhere.
which is
Global
now
as
at
a kid as well.
Ladbrokes or something.
Where was that? I mean, does it really matter? I'm just curious to know where that is.
It's in Hardgate.
My mum's from Clydebank, so like I know Clydebank very well. Up until the age of about 12, I didn't know that the city centre existed because
Yeah.
we only went to Clydebank. That's the cinema I went to. That's the
Really?
shops I went to. We only went to Clydebank.
You kind of graduate to the city centre when you go
It was a
older.
beautiful thing. Got to go hang about McCormick's with my friends, pretending I could play the guitar. That's what we did when we first went to the
G-Force,
city.
did you ever go there?
Aye.
That was the game place.
Oh, it was like an arcade.
Was it not like
No,
there was like
it was not. It was just like I was at a game shop, but they would sell
Oh,
CDs.
oh,
I think I bought my
Nice.
first album for there or CD.
What was it?
My first CD was, I think it was Alice DJ, Better Off Alone, I think. Or Back in My Life, I think it might have been the other one.
How did it go?
But the album, I Want You Back in My Life. And that's it.
That's beautiful.
It's good.
The CD was fucked. But I think the first album I bought was maybe Limp Bizkit. Hot dog flavoured water and chocolate starfish, whatever the fuck it was called.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
fucked up thing. Which at the time when I was a kid, had no idea
Why
what
would it be?
that was in reference to.
That was
Keep rolling.
Rolling.
someone came in to Rob Orton's show wearing
that was fucking weird.
a Live Laugh Limp Biscuit or something.
And he was in the front row. And
That's
Rob,
arguably worse than Live, Laugh, Love, I would say.
big time. But then Rob Orton was like, "Oh, you a big fan of Limp
Limp, Laugh,
Bizkit?"
Love,
Yeah.
surely.
That's better. That's much better.
He said, "Are you a big fan of Limp Bizkit?" And the guy was like, "No."
But then
Yeah.
someone was
weird.
also wearing something that
Another T-shirt that was like
said
some
chocolate starfish, which is why I pointed
But
at
then
you.
it does turn out that Limp Bizkit were playing in Glasgow that night or the next night, so
I
they were
see.
just lying and they were going to that show.
Yeah, they were annoying.
I
My
loved Clyde
first
Mack as a
album
child.
that I bought with my own money was D12.
Yes.
Eminem's band.
Yes. And I was like 10,
I'm trying to remember. Sorry.
11 maybe, and it had like a explicit like parental guidance sticker on it.
Parental advisory.
Parental advisory.
Explicit content.
Yes, yes. And so I was with my dad in HMV, and he said that I could buy it, but before I listened to
Did
it,
you have
he
to
was
listen
going to listen to it to see if it was appropriate, and then we'd take it back if it wasn't. He listened to it, and I was not allowed to listen to
Your
it.
dad was like,
You should have
"I've been
brought-
so many places."
Yeah,
So
he should have
many.
bought you Purple Hills, which was the safe cover of Purple Pills.
Oh,
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
you should have done that.
Nothing compares to these.
These
Something,
chicks
something
don't
purple.
even know the name of my band. That was it.
Yeah, my
But
mum
they
used.
all love me like they wanna hold hands.
That
no?
sounds
It's great. I thought
exactly
you
the
had, so you
same.
did sneak a listen.
Well, eventually we didn't. It never got taken back. So later on I got to listen to it.
Okay.
It wasn't that good. I fucking hate Eminem. Sorry.
Hot take.
He's just turned off the podcast now.
He was going to come on until you said that.
My mum used to listen to the most inappropriate music when we were kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She took me. The first ever gig I went to was Prince, which
Wow.
is no.
It's not inappropriate.
No. She used to listen to. I'm looking directly at the camera because I know she'll be watching this. There's a song that he has called "Darling Nikki," and the lyrics are. I knew a girl named Nikki. Yeah, you could say she was a sex fiend. I met her in a hotel lobby, masturbating with a magazine.
What magazine?
I said, "How like a way sometime." I don't know what the magazine was. I didn't ask him. But yeah, that kind of stuff. And then I remember singing. I was like 6 or 7, and then was singing it at my very religious grandparents' house, so not knowing what it meant. And then my older cousin was like, "Don't sing it." But yeah,
I was never a massive Prince fan.
you
Okay.
no?
Not really, no. Never really did it for me. I always feel like his music was like, I like a big wall of sound, and I always felt like his always felt a bit like there was nothing in it.
You've not. That's what. No.
I'm thinking of mostly the Batman soundtrack.
Oh, come on then.
That's all
not,
Prince though.
No.
He wrote the entire soundtrack to Batman, didn't he?
No, okay, yeah, but not too bad. It was the Jack Nicholson Batman. He did write a couple of songs for it. Yeah.
I just remember thinking it was a bit kind of empty. I realise that this is a very unpopular opinion because everyone thinks Prince is the best thing ever, but it's never did it for
You're
me.
still a Michael Jackson fan, are you?
I wasn't a fan of him either. I'm a big racist apparently, so I'm Jesus, I didn't realise.
Michael Jackson has some good bops.
Wow.
No one's ever said that.
Controversial
hot take.
opinion.
You're just not allowed to listen to it anymore.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
How do you these days see when somebody gets cancelled?
Separating the art from the artist.
R. Kelly, Michael Jackson, do you take them off the stand playlist, or do people ever still play?
Actually,
Well-
you did the exact opposite.
What do you
Oh
mean?
yeah, we made a playlist of
you
cancelled
made the full
artists.
playlist of cancelled artists.
That
It's a
was
shame at Christmas because that Gary Glitter one is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's true.
I said it on, I think it was Roscoe's, that I made a playlist for karaoke that was like, I assigned people that work here songs that I think that they would do really well at karaoke, but it had different themes. I did one for Tom Jones, I did one for cancelled artists, I did one for, I don't know, I must have been.
Who was your cancelled artist? Can you remember? This is a while ago.
I don't remember who it was. It was like Chris Brown,
Yeah.
who is only barely cancelled.
Well, he was in court the other day.
Oh, was he?
In somewhere in the UK for
Punching someone else?
punching somebody or doing something bad.
Okay.
Kanye, of course.
Yeah, that Kanye's difficult.
Do you know? Here's the thing you
He's
say
getting
about
worse.
Eminem, right? Here's the thing, right? Right, Drake and Kendrick had that beef, right?
Loved it.
Kendrick says Drake obviously. What was it? Oh, he was calling him a paedophile, was it?
Yeah.
And then Kendrick,
Certified.
but then
Certified
Drake
pedophile.
accused him of being a wife beater. Then you've got Kanye. Somehow Eminem is the least problematic rapper of all
That's true.
time.
Well, I mean, we don't know. He could have done stuff,
there's never-
but there's
nothing's
nothing's come
come
out.
out.
That's
Feels
so
like it would
far.
have come out, but now.
But he's also like not on like what scene is he in? Like people might not know
He just hangs
He's
about
like
in his
himself.
house in Detroit. I feel
Exactly.
a bit sorry for him.
Well, when I say I hate
Poor little
Eminem,
Eminem.
I just think his music's lame.
Yeah, it is, but it wasn't. Well, it was at the time in retrospect, but you know, I don't know.
I think we're a very similar age. Eminem was cool when I was a young teen. No, I'm older than you though.
I don't know. I don't know why that made me laugh.
The idea that I was ever once a young teen.
No, that you just listened to Eminem. I was thinking of. I think I had assigned Sean, Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
One of.
Why did he get cancelled?
Sean.
The Marilyn Manson one's pretty dark. I don't think.
Is it? Maybe we're going to that.
Yeah.
But I assigned myself Tom Jones Ovs.
Tom
Did he
Jones
get
cancelled?
cancelled?
Well, no, but I found a list. It was like this whole thing of like cancelled artists, and it's really like wide variety. So
like quite
Tom-
loose.
Yeah.
Baby, it's cold outside. Don't leave. The door's locked.
Drink this drink. He was cancelled because he wrote a song about like killing a woman.
Sure.
Yeah, I know.
Such a stupid
But that's
song.
why.
Is that?
Why?
Is that about killing someone?
Yeah.
Why? Delilah is about killing someone.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to look up the lyrics to this.
I don't know any
It's,
other lyrics other than why Delilah.
I saw the light of the night as she looked by the window. Do. It's basically he sees Delilah shagging someone else.
Right.
He knocks on the door. Suddenly, there's a knife in his hand, and it's basically Delilah. You made me do this, Delilah. This is
Yeah.
your fault that I'm stabbing you in the face 10 times.
He didn't actually do that.
No, I know, but I wanted to sing Tom Jones.
I love songs like that where men are excusing their bad behaviour.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
My favourite one is Elvis, You Were Always on My Mind, because like he's going, maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I should have. I was fucking all these other women, but you were always on my mind. You were always on my mind.
It's literally, but it's so funny in Welsh rugby they sing that like Delilah gets sung quite a lot and along with other stuff, and it is, you know, it's just such a banger, but it literally is just like it's
About
your fault that
murdering
you're
someone.
dead, you bitch. Basically.
Who was it? Plan B that had this.
Oh, that's a callback.
Charmaine. It's. Have you heard this song? So
It's mad.
it's basically
It's like one of those. It's like a story. The song is like a story.
I actually, when
similar
I was
way to-
younger, as in like 13, 14, me and my sister Leah, we knew all of the lyrics to the song. But it's basically, he sees this girl. First day he saw her was at the train station.
Mm-hmm.
And basically she was best of both worlds, caramel complexion. When I first saw her, I got an erection, and it's basically about how much he fancies this girl. They end up having sex, and he's like, oh yeah, she's so experienced, blah, blah, blah. Love this girl, blah, 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 blah. And then he goes and tells his friends about he's in love with this girl, Charmaine De La Rosa. And then the end of the song, the last line is, blood, that girl's 14.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
See, that isn't fun. That isn't a fun song. That suggests that maybe that happened to him in real
Yeah.
life.
That's why it's
and
called
even
Plan
if it
B.
didn't, why are you fantasizing about that? Plan B?
Is Plan B still going?
Well,
No.
She said I love her.
it's just a rap version of Lolita. If it's good enough for Vladimir Nabokov, it's good enough for Plan B.
Okay.
Not me. I'm not excusing. Both of them are cancelled in my book. Get them on the fucking karaoke playlist.
But yeah, no, there's some really good. But I don't usually keep cancelled people on the playlist, apart from I did sneak in Blurred Lines to one
Which
of the
now
playlists.
looking back at it, it's like it was
Thicke.
cancelled at the time, but it's like
What did he
there's-
do?
Just the
It's just
song
the
was about
song's
like you know
dodgy.
you want it.
Yeah.
even
I
though
hate these blurred lines, as in like.
Because like you're saying no, but
It's
you
a song
want
about consent.
Yeah,
Did he
but
not
there's so
release-
many other worse songs.
Did he
I
not
don't know why
release
I
an
don't
album
know.
like saying sorry to his wife, and it got like the least amount of like downloads?
I'm really
or-
sorry.
Yeah. He was doing "You're Always on My Mind" basically.
It's so stupid. But yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're probably coming to time here.
Oh.
Um, So the two
I've not seen the light yet. Sure.
we do,
For the listeners, you get a light when you're on stage.
It was a funny joke.
Sometimes two lights.
sometimes you get played off. Perhaps we're not brutal enough with that. We should start playing people
Yeah,
off
I
more
agree.
often.
I don't think I would ever.
There's a
play
guy
you
who
off, though.
used
Sean
to
plays
work
people
here
up all
called
the time.
Brian when I first started, and he loved fucking me open spots, and if they went a second over
Yeah.
5 minutes, he'd just go. He
Sean
was
used to
terrified
when
of it.
Sean used to do Red Rose all the time. He'd do it. Carl.
Sean will do it, but not as brutally as that. But
No,
you
no,
know,
no.
I think people have to learn.
I have played people off, but I am quite generous, to be fair.
Which is fair. I mean, a lot of these people, they're not doing it deliberately.
If it's just clear, if it needs to be, they need to make sure that they're running to time, because that's just like professional. But
Also, if
it's,
they're not doing all the kind of like, there's things you see them doing, like if you know someone's wrapping up because they'll
get the mic
grab
stand.
the mic
Yeah,
stand,
yeah.
they'll go, I'll leave you with this. Because like they say, you sort of go, all right, I can see what you're doing with this. But it's people who just like
Keep going.
another thing. You're like, oh yeah, I'll
Yeah.
stop it.
Yeah,
Attention.
yeah. After the
Anyway.
last bit, it's just died a horrible
It's
death.
like,
Yeah.
let's keep going. It's like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
but there's someone that does it that I needed to play them off because they basically don't leave until you
they're
play.
played off.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And, like, because you went back and said, like, when do you want your light? He's like, I'll just wait till the music comes on. It's like,
No, that was after. That was
not what you're meant to
after.
do.
That was after I had already played them off the last time.
So they just thought that was the standard.
Yeah.
I just remember that conversation.
Yeah.
I've not seen them in a while, so that's probably not a problem anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope to see you soon. We usually end with two different things. First thing is you can plug anything you want to plug.
Considering this won't come out like that soon.
Would be out in August.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Come and see me at the Fringe in August. Not at the stand, sadly, but where are you going to?
Where are you playing?
Monkey Barrel.
Classic.
Monkey Barrel 4. And apart from that, I'll probably have some tour dates in the autumn, I would imagine. And yeah, check out my podcast called Some Laugh. I've also got 2 stand-up specials that are on here. In fact, I'll have another one by this time, recorded right on this stage.
Oh, nice.
But I'm doing all crowd work. So if you hate crowd work, don't watch that. But it's good. And yeah, I've got another couple, so check it out.
What's the next show called?
The next show that I'm doing for Fringe,
Yeah.
it's called Bread and Circuses.
What's the reason behind the
Have
name?
you heard that quote?
Yeah.
The Roman thing. Give them
like-
bread and circuses and they'll never revolt.
Well, there you go.
And it's
Appeasing the
yeah, it's
polls.
kind of like, hang, what's it going to take? How bad is it going to get before we start doing something about all this?
How
these
uncomfortable
terrible
the middle
things?
classes need to get before they do something about it.
Yeah, that's it. But it also gives me the option to just provide people with the bread and circuses that they so desire. So,
gonna give
Very
out
good,
bread?
very good. Oh my
in a
god, you should.
metaphorical sense. No, because I'm trying to
Are you
stay
gonna
off it.
come on?
I'm actually pretty anti-bread. I'm a no carbs guy if I can help it. You know, when I'm trying
It's a
to
real
eat healthily.
controversial
I've
take.
just
Oh, we
had
were
a
going
club
to ask him
sandwich.
about food.
You can ask me about food?
No, shh.
Oh, sorry.
can ask me
Are
about
you
food.
going to come on stage to the circus?
No, I'll tell you what I'm coming on stage to, because what I didn't know until I'd named the show was that Bread and Circuses is actually the name of a pretty poorly received album by the Dundee band The View.
Oh,
Excellent.
So, but they've got one good song on it, which is called Grace, and it's a great intro track. So I'm
That's
actually
great.
gonna
Well,
that.
do that.
no,
Very nice.
no, what's that song? The
Hope
Same
that.
Jeans. That's that.
Same Jeans.
Yeah.
That
For
one,
4
that's good.
days. Yeah.
Nice.
Same Jeans also good though.
Overplayed though. Anyway,
So thanks for plugging whatever you needed to plug. That's terrible.
Some Laugh podcast.
That's terrible. Thanks for plugging whatever
do
you
know
needed
what?
to
I'll,
plug.
I'll say this because I don't know when this will come out, but by then we should have actually sorted this. So we're doing a thing on the Some Laugh YouTube channel where we're releasing a few different stand-up specials. So mine's is going to be there. Stuart's is going to be there. CMB's is going to be on ours. I believe Liam Withnail and Roscoe, and we're calling
nice.
it Summer Laugh or Summer of Laughs.
That's
Whenever
cool.
they-
Love that.
So there'll be loads of specials on the YouTube channel, not to mention the ones that are already up there.
Great.
Which is a couple of mine's, Steve's, and a couple of Stuart's. So
that's cool.
check out Some Laugh YouTube channel.
But the Some Laugh,
Yeah.
are you kind of producing comedy specials
an
now?
We did
agency.
just produce Stuart's there, and yeah, so
That's cool.
hey,
That's wicked. Cool, man.
Empire building.
we're building an empire,
Nice.
you know.
Very nice.
The other thing we usually do at the end of the pod is because we're so quirky, we do an icebreaker question at the end.
Uh-huh.
So Molly's going to ask you an icebreaker question.
What's your Pepe's order?
Oh, we
It
never
depends.
talked about your Pepe's order.
It
/
depends.
Christopher asked us to ask you about tapas.
Okay. I don't really know why, but we go for tapas a lot, me and Chris. But depends whether I'm on or off the carbs. If I'm not trying to eat healthy or lose weight, I will get a chicken XL burger meal from Pepe's.
What makes it XL? More just loads of chicken?
Just big.
I think it's just the name of it. It's just the name. It's marketing, you fool. And then if I'm trying to eat
you don't eat the
healthy,
bun?
no, I have the. I'll just have the bun if I'm being bad, or I'll. But often what I bring in here is I'll get the chicken salad, but I don't like the tomatoes or the cucumber. So they always go, just chicken and lettuce. Then I'm like, yes, just chicken and lettuce. So, which makes me feel odd, but I don't care because I need to get my food.
Okay,
So,
fair enough. You do you.
Had we talked about this before? I'd say you coming in with a Pepe's is the equivalent of Fred McCullough coming in with the Usabi's coffee.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
a guaranteed thing. You always come to his coffee, you always come to your Pepe's.
Yeah.
Interesting. There you go.
Yeah.
You should get sponsored by Pepe's.
My
That's the
order
only
at-
difference between me and Fred.
My order at Pepe's,
That and our bank balance, I think.
they have a wrap.
His tennis court's bigger than yours. That's what I've heard.
They have a wrap that's like basically hasn't got anything in it. Like,
But just
because I don't eat meat.
It's like an old El Paso fajita kit. Has anyone done a bit about that? Just spicy dusty.
Yeah, it's got like rice and lettuce in it.
Did they
or
do
something.
like a that's not meat?
No,
thing?
they're
Act like
not
a
that.
wise man.
Oh, maybe it is. Maybe it's got like a veggie burger in it.
Interesting.
It's not that good. I think if you don't eat meat, Pepe's isn't the place for you.
Yeah.
No.
I just like chicken and rice, please.
There's one at the end of like near me in like the south side.
Yeah.
And
It's a good one. That one.
it's always like I think sometimes when I'm coming home from work, I'm like, oh, maybe it'll be open, and it's never open. It shuts at like 10.
Yeah, the one up the road shuts at 11. Have you just had that? Have you had the Pepe's?
Me? Yeah.
I have never been to Pepe's.
Whoa,
just on the
let's go
road.
right now.
Just go.
I'm so
What
hungry.
describe sound to me?
It's chicken, rice.
It's like
lettuce.
Is it deep
It's-
fried chicken? Is it like got a coating
no,
on
it's
it?
grilled.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like a cheap Nando's,
Yeah.
kind of.
Oh, okay. I can maybe into that.
It's good.
It's actually pretty, and the portion sizes are fucking massive.
And
The-
you should get them as sponsor. I've
Actually, yeah.
I want them as a sponsor of some laugh.
Let's see if we can get Pepe's as
There's
a
one that's
global
been
sponsor.
opening near my mum and dad's house in Edinburgh for like months. It's still not open.
There's quite a lot. Was it the one in Lothian Road? 'Cause
I know,
think
in
that's
Leaf
open.
Walk.
There's loads of them opening. They're doing great.
Well, I don't know
Pepe's
if they
is
are
having
doing
a
great
moment.
because it's been saying opening soon for like a year.
Yeah, it's just been a really good
Yeah, got a bit mad at the end.
Thanks
there.
so much for coming on.
Thanks for coming
Thank
on.
you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And I hope your fringe run goes well, and I hope everyone
you.
tunes into all the
Well,
specials. And
I'll look forward to the new place
Yeah.
opening, and best luck with all of that. And
you'll be there, I'm sure.
I'll hopefully be on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we'll be there.
You know, not getting music off.
Well,
Nice.
bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.